Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very special edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. It is our 10 best professional wrestling tag teams of all time. It's a controversial list, to say the least. We've got a couple of your lists and our lists as well. Coming up next on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime.
Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Dameon Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special episode of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. It is the 10 best wrestling managers.
Managers?
It is the 10 best wrestling tag teams.
I got the wrong list if that's
of
the
all
case.
time. This stems from our radio show of 2 weeks ago. And by the way, Al Snow deserves some kind of award himself for being on the number one broadcast professional wrestling radio show.
Yeah, I
in the
mean, to
world
put
last
up with
Monday.
Meathead and Rashi for an hour?
And you and Kaz,
Oh, come on. Al and I, we go way back. He's a GLCW champion.
former, current.
Well, you know. He's former. But still.
Well, you know. 2 weeks ago, though we had Brian Knobs on the show, and you said that the Nasty Boys were one of the best tag teams of all
I
time.
said they're one of the top 10.
So it was time to go down the list for you of
And
our
let's-
10 best
Hold on.
tag teams of all time.
Just so you know, this is my list. It's not your list. It's what who entertained me.
Correct, and
when I
we
was
do
watching.
have a couple of email submitted lists that we'll go over in a minute as soon as we get them here in the studio. Just waiting for the interns to bring them in. I believe they're sitting on the what do you call that?
Yeah,
on the
we need
desk
Cal,
up there.
we need Cal to get going on that kind of stuff.
But anyways, it is the 10 best tag teams of all time, and David Hero tradition states that we start at number 10. And I will start with my number 10, which would have to be a tag team that may have formed fairly recently, but a tag team that is simply excellent at what they do. That would be Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns. Oh, yeah.
Are
Of
you
all time.
serious?
I just did.
The Machine Guns?
Absolutely.
10 of all the
They're-
tag teams out there.
They are pioneers in tag team wrestling.
How so?
The fluidity of their moves, the
Hardy
ability to
Boys.
work together,
Edge
the
and Christian.
innovation of their moves is tremendous. They light it up every time they're in the ring, no matter who they're against, and they're two tremendous individual talents that really started to shine when put together as a tag team.
I like the Machine Guns, but my number 10 is one of the 10 greatest tag teams of all time. Brian Knobs and Sags, the Nasty Boys.
Oh, I'm waiting.
No, I said they're one of the top 10 tag teams.
No, that's fine. Now this is where you tell wow.
Well, they've beaten the Road Warriors, they've beaten the Steiners, they've beaten Harlem Heat, they've beaten Hall and Nash, they've beaten Public Enemy. They're one of the they've beaten the Hart Foundation, the Rougeos, the Killer Bees, the Midnight Rockers, the Rockers, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right. That's
They
your
beat
list.
the Misfits in Action. You know, come on.
That's really the one that put it over the edge. for
Cactus
me.
Jack and Max Payne.
All right, that's your number 10. Fine. Number 10 for me, the Motor City Machine Guns. Number 10 for David Hero is the Nasty Boys. Let's go to number 9, ladies and gentlemen, as we go on this list of the top 10 tag teams of all time. And for me, David Hero, number 9 would be the New Age Outlaws. Road Dogg, Jesse James, and Badass Billy Gunn. Again, innovative. It was almost like they were better before they joined DX in '98 because they were trying so hard to be a part of DX. Remember when they threw Terry Funk and Mick Foley off the edge of the stage in Indianapolis at Raw? Yeah, it was great stuff, and I really liked the edge that they had. They were Attitude before Attitude was really huge Attitude. So the New Age Outlaws, my number 9.
I remember when I first saw the Outlaws beat the Road Warriors for the tag belts. Couldn't believe it. I'm like, who are these two guys?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have known that they would go on to be, who most would say, the biggest part of DX of DX?
All right.
Oh, come on. When you think DX, you think Road Dogg and Billy. And X-Pac and China.
Triple H and Shawn.
Well, no, I don't. You know what? When you think of DX, I think of 99, 2000, when it was the Outlaws, X-Pac, China, and Triple H.
Yeah.
I don't think Triple H and Shawn.
All right. Okay. even though there were two originals in the pretty much today's incarnation. That's fine. No, it's fine. Number 9 for me, the New Age Outlaws.
For me, I'm going with Jericho. Chris Jericho.
Really?
Big Show. Yeah.
All right.
They may not have won a lot of big matches, especially
Or been around for a long time.
and how bad this tag team division is. But I think I could see them working matches with some of the top tag teams. I think they would have had some great matches with Demolition, with the Road Warriors, with the Brain Busters, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. I think those could have been some great matches.
All right, well, number 9 for me, the New Age Outlaws. Number 9 for you, Jericho. Interesting choice, but that's your opinion. Number 8, the list of the top 10 tag teams of all time, 10 best, would be for me, Edge and Christian. 5-second pose. They were great. They innovated as well, and I keep using that word, but at a time where they came in with the comedy bit, remember on commentary, I'm going to do a run-in. Do you know what a run-in is? Stuff that they did was pretty revolutionary for its time, and they were a great tag team. And look where it launched both of them in their careers.
Well, I mean, both guys have been world champions.
Absolutely.
And at one time, they were world champion of, WWE and TNA.
Absolutely. Edge and Christian, my number 8.
For me, my number 8 is the original Team 3D, the original Dudley Boys, AWA World Tag Team Champions, the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure 90% of you have no idea who I'm talking about, but those two guys were awesome. They were the Road Warriors before the Road Warriors. They beat people up. YouTube them, the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser, AWA World Tag Team Champions. Their matches against the Vachons, Mad Dog and the Butcher, bloodbaths. Legendary.
Brian Knobs actually, when he was on the show last week, referenced that tag team back from his AWA days.
And you know what? Crusher and Bruiser, they tossed the Nasty Boys around. Only one tag team has ever taken Crusher and Bruiser off their feet. That is the Road Warriors. Hawk and Animal.
Number 8 for me, Edge and Christian. For David Hero, it is the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser. Let's go to number 7 now, and number 7 is a legendary tag team, Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton, Rock and Roll Express. Tell you, their feuds with the Midnight Express in the NWA days, Jim Cornette, and just great stuff. And really, probably one of the longest standing tag teams in the business. They were together for a long time. May still be, or recently have, performed together as well. So.
And they have this. Well, Ricky Morton still has the same haircut.
Yeah. Is it a modified mullet?
It's scary. For me, number 7 is their number 1 opponent, the Midnight Express.
Oh yeah.
And you can pick either with Condrey and Eaton or Eaton and Lane.
I liked Eaton and Lane best.
I did too. They were amazing. You could say that they were kind of like the Edge and Christian of their era.
Okay. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, sweet Stan Lane. What was Dennis Condrey's? Dangerous? Oh, that was Danny Davis.
No, I don't remember what Dennis Condrey was.
Somebody will tell us.
Absolutely. Beautiful Bobby and
all right.
sweet Stan.
Number 7 for me, the Rock and Roll Express. And number 7 for David Hero, the Midnight Express. Let's go now to number 6. And number 6 for me would have to be the team that fell apart in the barbershop one day when Marty Jannetty was put through a plate glass window, which is still a historical moment in professional wrestling. Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers. Their AWA days, their WWE days, just they were the Motor City Machine Guns of that day.
They were talented. And if you've had a chance to watch AWA on ESPN Classic, you could see how good they really were. And it's just amazing how much Shawn Michaels has transcended throughout the years to the star he's become. But for me, number 6, the Hart Foundation.
Really?
Jim the Anvil and Hitman Brett.
Okay.
I mean, look who they've beaten.
Look who they haven't beaten is actually a shorter list of people. That's a good choice. Very good choice, Hart Foundation. Another legendary tag team. Your number 6 and my number 6 on the 10 best tag teams of all time list would be the Rockers. Let's go on to number 5 now as we round out the 5 greatest tag teams of all time as we see it. And number 5 for me, David Hero, would have to be your number 7, I believe, the Midnight Express of Eaton and Lane.
And you know what? they could almost be definitely in the top, in my top 5. You know, but
Mhm.
there's only so many teams we
It's
can put in
difficult to
there.
whittle this down, which is what's interesting about this list. We get a lot of feedback says, why wasn't this, why wasn't that? Well, when you're trying to find 10, it gets very difficult.
And it's the ones that we wanted to see, the ones
Absolutely.
that entertained us.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm sure there's better tag teams. I know there's teams that we don't have on our list, like, the Killer Bees,
Mm-hmm.
like the Mulkeys,
Mhm.
the Ding Dongs. We just couldn't get them on here.
Indeed, number 5 for me is the Midnight Express. Thank you.
For me, my number 5, the Brainbusters.
Oh, yeah!
Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. I mean, when it came to tag team wrestling during that era, there was no better team than those two guys.
Was it Saturday night's main event or the main event where it was the Brainbusters
Saturday
versus
night's main
the
event.
Rockers? 2 out of 3.
2 out of
Heenan
3.
walks out. That was their last match, I think, in WWE, perhaps.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Just, that's wrestling, guys. If you haven't seen that, Google it, do something. That is just psychology, athleticism, drama, excitement. And I think that match right there can define what those two teams were all about. And of course, it's no secret, Blanchard and Anderson, part of the Four Horsemen, and had teams quite a bit before that. But it was really as the Brainbusters, when they had that marketing arm behind them and Heenan to speak for them, that you really began to appreciate them that much more.
What team, though, did not Bobby Heenan make great?
There wasn't one.
I mean, every tag team he got behind, Islanders, Bundy and Studd, the Brainbusters, the Blackjacks, Lanza and Mulligan. He knows.
All right. Well, that's a great choice for number 5, and we want to remind everybody that we're going to be live again on 540 ESPN this Monday night. Be sure to tune in as we talk about all the big announcements of this past week, and there were some big ones, Dave, coming from the wrestling world, and we will be, again, live with you Monday night right after WWE Raw streaming live at pwrshow.com. And David, before we get to number 4 on our list of the 10 best tag teams of all time, let's go to a couple of email submissions of their top 10 tag teams of all time. This first one comes from Sean Burkhead from Knoxville, Tennessee, and his list goes as follows from bottom to top. Number 10, Beer Money. Number 9, the New Age Outlaws. Number 8, Team 3D. Number 7, the Hardys. Number 6, Harlem Heat. Number 5, the Steiners. Number 4, the Road Warriors. Number 3, the Fabulous Freebirds. It's a great choice.
They were on my short list.
And number 2, the Midnight Express. Number 1, the Rock and Roll Express. The explanation being they topped the list because they're the first team I think of when you say tag team wrestling. They won every major title during their career.
No, they did not.
According to Sean, they
They've
did.
never been the WWF or WWE.
They were in the WWF for a while, though.
for
under Jim Cornette's
second.
tutelage.
Yeah.
Dan Saint sends in his list of the 10 best tag teams of all time. He says from bottom to top, the Hardy Boys, Team 3D, Demolition, Rock and Roll Express, Terry Gordy and Dr. Death,
Great team.
the Rockers, the Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, the Eden and Lane version, the Eliminators,
EC Dub.
and the Hart Foundation topping Dan's list. Thank you very much for those couple of emails with your top 10 tag teams of all time. David, let's continue our list. And number 4 for me would have to be the British Bulldogs with Matilda.
They were awesome. I mean, when I first saw the Bulldogs, I was like, wow, great tag team, innovative moves, acrobatic, big, strong guys.
Huge.
Wrestling. Well, they weren't huge. They were short, but
Wow.
yeah,
They were
absolutely. They were built
almost
like
as buff
Bulldogs.
as me.
Almost.
Almost.
But
The
from
suit hides a lot.
it's amazing how your 4 is the Bulldogs. My 4 is the New Age Outlaws.
All right, well, they were
When you
lower on
think
my
of-
list.
When you think of the Attitude Era, as far as tag teams, Outlaws have got to be up there.
All right.
You're twinging. You don't agree with me.
No, that's your list. You're entitled to your list. Let's go to number 3 now. And for me, number 3, the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, obviously. Again, as was said in one of these emails, you think of, when someone says tag teams, you think of certain teams. And as we round out the top 3 here, obviously the Hart Foundation is a team that you always think about. There would be no Bret Hart without the Hart Foundation.
You know what's kind of funny is everyone always says that Marty Jannetty. You know, Shawn Michaels and there's Marty Jannetty. Isn't it safe to say that Jim Neidhart is really a Marty Jannetty?
Ooh, probably worse.
You know?
That's a good point.
No
Maybe
one
we should
ever
do a
says
10 worst tag team breakups.
absolutely.
The partner
yes.
that got the short stick.
Yes.
Our Foundation, my number 3.
For me, Axe and Smash Demolition.
Here comes the axe, and here comes the smasher.
You just killed a great song. Great tag team champions. They beat Andre and Haku, beat the Brainbusters.
God bless you.
Strike Force.
Strike Force.
Killer
As we
Bees.
go through these lists, there's so many tag teams that as you said, made the short list or did not,
Can-Am Connection.
quite make it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Power and Glory.
I love Power and Glory. How could you not be a fan of Power and Glory? The Bolsheviks.
Yeah.
You
The
know-
Conquistadors.
You know who is not on my list, but they really should be. Is I just forgot about them until right now. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov,
Oh yeah.
because they were the ultimate heel. They were a true heel tag team.
They weren't cheered.
Never. They were the true heel tag team. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
All right. And your number 3 is
Demolition.
Demolition. Thank you very much for that. My number 2 is actually your number 3, and that is going to be the combination of Axe and Smash with Mr. Fuji, Demolition. You know, for a long time, they were the only tag team in professional wrestling as far as I was concerned with my tunnel vision approach to wrestling, which was only watching WWF. Demolition, and we've had the opportunity to have Demolition Smash on the show several times before. They just really were the dominant force in tag team wrestling when tag team wrestling was a huge deal.
They kicked your teeth in.
Stinking teeth in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Demolition, my number 2 in the list of the 10 best tag teams of all time.
For me, my number 2, I'm sure some people will always have them at number 1, Hawk and Animal. Without Rocco. Okay? Yeah. No
What about the
Rocco.
Wall Street Journal?
Oh yeah, you can
Precious
have Paul.
Paul?
Absolutely, you can have Paul, but definitely no Rocco. And no LOD 2000.
Even though Sonny was their manager?
Yeah, I'm talking about LOD 1988, 1989,
In the NWA?
1990, yeah. And then going to the AWA and beating up Crusher and Baron Von Raschke.
They were scary.
They scared everybody.
They were scary, and you believed them. And that is why they are also my number 1. Well, they're your number 2, but
My 2.
my number 1, as we advance forward, my number 1 tag team of all time, Legion of Doom, Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. Just tremendous. And for all the reasons we just talked about, it really does, in my opinion, when you're talking about the top 5 tag teams on anybody's list, you find Demolition and the Legion of Doom in that top 5. So Legion of Doom, the best tag team in the history of wrestling, in my opinion.
For me, my honorable mentions go to the Steiner brothers.
Yeah?
They didn't make the top 10. They should be in the top 10, but where can you put them? And of course, another one of my all-time favorite tag teams, Too Cool, Grandmaster Sexy and Sky Too
Because of
Hottie.
the dance.
Because of the dance. And you know what? They were entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay? But my number 1 tag team, the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid, had some of the most amazing matches ever against Valentine and Beefcake, against the Hart Foundation. I saw a match against Bundy and Stud, which I thought was awesome. And absolutely, I think they changed the game of tag team wrestling by the moves that they brought with them from Japan and Canada. Just the acrobatics that they brought made them the number 1 tag team in all of wrestling.
All right, David Hero. Well, let's go down the list, each of ours respectively. 10 best tag teams of all time, as far as I see it. Number 10 would be the Motor City Machine Guns. Number 9 would be the New Age Outlaws. Number 8, Edge and Christian. Number 7, the Rock and Roll Express. Number 6, the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Number 5 would be the Midnight Express of Eden and Lane. Number 4, the British Bulldogs. Number 3, the Hart Foundation. Number 2, Demolition. And number 1, the Legion of Doom.
And for me, my number 10 are the Nasty Boys, Jericho at 9, 8, Crusher and Bruiser, 7, the Midnight Express. Number 6 is the Hart Foundation. Number 5 is the Brainbusters, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. Number 4 is the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. Number 3 is Demolition. Number 2 is the Road Warriors. And number 1, the British Bulldogs.
Thank you for those of you who submitted your 10 best tag teams. Feel free to continue to submit those for our review to take a look at. And it's always, as we said before, difficult to come up with a 10 best list, but it's a good exercise to go through. So, we'll be back with a brand new edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN this Monday, another edition of Interactive next week, and another edition of Primetime next Friday. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again Monday night, right after Raw on 540 ESPN, streaming live at pwrshow.com.